Hello and welcome back to the Champions of Happy podcast. On this podcast, I talk to my friends about what makes them happy, what makes them smile, and what brings them joy. I hope you've had a great week. In good news, the podcast is now available on iTunes, Spotify, and Deezer. On this episode, I'm talking to drag queen and cabaret performer Wayne Carter, aka Laya Bell. For more information on the podcast and any updates, you can go straight to our Instagram. It's simply the Champions of Happy. In the meantime, let's get started with the episode. Hello, Wayne. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm alive, I'm breathing, I'm upright. I do not have the ability to sleep coherently in one long period, but life is great.
I know we had a little chat before we started, but thank you again for coming on what is a very new project for me. And so thank you for being patient and kind. And
That's okay. I mean, this is very unlike me. I'm not a very for the people who are listening who may know me in the flesh. I am not a patient nor a kind person usually. So maybe I'm growing as a person. Maybe this is my redemption moment. Maybe
you're adulting.
I am. Oh no, I can't. I can't adult. That is definitely not a thing I can do.
So, Wayne, for people who don't know who you are, can you please summarize who you are, what you do, what is your life?
Who I am, what I do, what is my life? Okay, that is a.
I mean, they are the deep
question.
questions, maybe, but what you do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's going to be more deep questions. Oh no. My name is Wayne Carter. I am a cabaret burlesque comedian, radio presenter, and all-round drag shambles. I host a radio show podcast YouTube extravaganza called Driving You Homo, which is broadcast to Southwest London Radio. Or Southwest London, and I am a drag performer under the name Laya Bell, and I do burlesque, and I do cabaret, and I've hosted multiple, what are they called, music festival cabaret stages, and I have done many fringe festivals: Edinburgh Fringe, Adelaide Fringe, Leicester Comedy Festival, Brighton Fringe. Yeah. I do the cabaret. I do the
so bits and bobs, really. Nothing much. Not a lot.
What is it? I'm a master of nothing. What's that saying? Where it's like I do a lot of things, but I'm not good at anything. So like I do a lot of things. I'm a freelancer.
You're one of them. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm one of those. I'm one of those, the dirty unwashed.
And do I detect an accent?
I am a foreign, yes. No, that's fine. I am one of those horrible foreigners. I am from Australia originally. I grew up on a sheep and wheat farm in central Australia in a very small town of 500 people. And I moved from that small town, and because you'll be surprised to know that in a small farming community, there aren't a lot of jobs for queer drag performers. And so I maybe got to step in, and I moved to London because I did move to the bigger city, the metropolitan city, which is Adelaide, and a lot of people in Adelaide, because Adelaide is still a small city as well. When you move there, a lot of people go, "Oh, you should move to Sydney or Melbourne," and I was like, "No, that's too like everyone does that." So. I'm going to move to London instead and give that a go. Cut to 6 years later, here we are.
Nice.
Or queer we are, because gay.
So did you come from a theatre comedy educational background, or has it always been a hobby you've worked upon?
That is a very wonderful question. Look at you with your questions and answers.
I'm prepared.
So the answer is, I guess yes and no. So I definitely did not come from a theatre or artistic background in terms of my family, because my family are like Australia is a sporting nation. Australia is very much lad bands. So like me coming out as gay was like a big deal, and like the theatre thing was like a big deal. But I mean, they're fine with it, and they've always been accepting, which is great. But I think it would have been a lot easier if I was into cars and football. But so the answer is no. I've always marched to the beat of my own drum, and I've always been interested in theatre and cabaret, and I've always been left of centre and I've always done things differently to what other people are doing. In saying that, my grandfather on my dad's side, my biological father on my biological grandparent, he was a landscape painter, and he used to travel around Europe painting landscapes.
Oh, wow.
And so I only learnt about that sort of after his passing, when I was in my teens, and it kind of just sort of like it made me go, oh, this is really interesting, because the rest of my family are like not into art or culture or like that kind. They're all happy with sport, and they're all happy with like having a couple of drinks with the mates, that kind of like, which is all great stuff. But when it comes to artistic creation and like sort of self-expression, it I guess it skipped a generation, and it's a weird one. He's the only one that was sort of artistically minded, I guess. So the answer to your short question, which I sort of rabbled on about, is no, I am not from an artistic family, but I am creative, yes, very much so.
So when you were in Australia, were you out there performing still, doing what you do now, or has it changed what you do?
So yes, it has. Yes, I did start performing out in Australia, and then it has evolved and it has grown. And if you are a performer, or if you're thinking of starting performing, my advice to anyone would be to say yes to new experiences. So for me, when I first started as a cabaret performer, I didn't even start as a cabaret performer. I started as a Shakespearean actor. So I was doing a lot of Shakespeare plays. So Richard III, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, Love Labour's Lost, are the ones that I can remember off the top of my head. So Midsummer Night's Dream. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember all them, all the Shakespeare plays that I've done these ones, I've done these ones. So I started doing Shakespeare plays in Australia, and I found them to. I love Shakespeare. I have a lot of time for Shakespeare, and I have a lot of time for like reading and understanding the sort of nuances of like, I guess, Old English, which is a difficult thing to get your head around. So I started as that, and then a friend of mine at university said, "Oh, I'm going to go see this stand-up comedian. Would you be interested in coming?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess, if it's free and I don't have to like, as long as it's free and I have get alcohol ingested into my face, I'm happy with it." And so I went and saw this comedian who ended up being a friend of mine. We ended up becoming friends and stuff like that. And he's become very successful. He's been headlining, like doing really well in Australia and in the US. And but at that time, when I first saw his stand-up special, his hour show, I went, "Oh, is this it? Is that all you have to do? I can do that. I do that all the time." So I was like, "Oh, I'll become a comedian." And so I started as a, so I guess I started as a comedian. I sort of sort of side swiped from Shakespearean actor to stand-up comedy, and as part of that, I would go to the fringe festivals in Australia. So like Melbourne Comedy Festival, Adelaide Fringe, Perth Fringe World. So I would go to the fringe festivals. I would go into the artist bar, become friends with other performers, other comedians, and I would get drunk and dance in the artist bar with other people. And then I became friends with burlesque performers and cabaret performers. And I was like, "Oh, burlesque, like this is cool." Never thought anything about it. We just became mates. I then moved to London, and was at a stand-up gig. And I'd always wanted to do sort of this gender bending sort of dude in a dress thing, for a comedy thing outside of a queer venue. And a friend of mine, a comedian, Jake Howie, a New Zealand born comedian, who now lives in Sydney, I think. He said, "Oh, just do it," and did it, and it sort of, what's the word, paved the way for my sort of drag career as it is now. But it all sort of started there. Then I went back for the fringe festivals. I did sort of, for a lot of, I guess, not successful, but a lot of carnival folk, fringe festival folk, is you'll go like the Fringe festivals, you essentially tour. So you follow the summer. So like you go to Edinburgh Fringe, and then you go to Adelaide Fringe, and then you go to Perth Fringe, and you go to, like, they all sort of, you don't really have a home. You sort of jump between them. And so when I first moved to the UK, the first 2 years I was sort of flitting around between Australia and the UK in terms of the festivals. And I went back to Adelaide Fringe, and a friend of mine was like I literally got off the plane, turned on my phone, my Australian phone, and within sort of an hour, a burlesque performer promoter messaged me and was like, someone's bailed. I need someone to, jiggle around, take their clothes off. Can you do it? I know you're a good dancer. And I was like, I'm fat and I'm a dude. Like, I don't think anyone wants this. Like, and she's like, you've got the moves, like, and you've got the like stage presence. Just do it. And I was like, but I don't. And so and I wasn't super body positive at the time, or body confident, and that, I guess, quickly changed. I didn't have much of a choice.
I've seen your bum on stage a fair few times, I think.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done that before.
Yeah.
So that is, that has, what's the word? So that initial situation where my friend was like, I need help, do it, you don't have a choice. I was like, oh, okay, well then I'll do that then. And it sort of opened more doors for me in terms of performing. So, like I said at the start of that long-winded response, was, as a performer, say yes to new experiences and be open to new experiences and give it a go. And if it's not your thing, move along. But be open to new things. So
that's a really, really great approach. It's a very, you've got to be very brave as well to do that kind of thing, because you are throwing yourself completely out of your comfort zone in order to see if something's going to work or not.
Well, I think we're all blessed with different skill sets. So I'm a very extroverted personality. So for me, being on stage and being, it comes naturally to me, and it's very easy for me. So for me, hilariously, that I have an abundance of confidence when it comes to being on stage. I can do, like, when I'm up in drag, or when I'm like on stage performing, I have so much like confidence, and like everything's just going right for me. But when I'm off stage and I'm in a gay bar and I'm trying to talk to boys, all that confidence is gone, and I have no idea. And I'm just like, hey, just be my friend. But like, it just, like, it's a weird juxtaposition. It's like I can be super confident in one part of my life, but lack that confidence in another area. So I think everyone's got different skill sets, and we need to acknowledge that. So I'm terrible with computers. I can't do that.
So, not to put you on the spot or anything, but can you deliver any Shakespeare here and now?
Can I do a monologue?
Well, no, monologue, not a line.
I can.
We haven't got all the
Yeah, true. Not my favorite, but like one of them that I think of is Boyer from Lovelace Lost. And Boyer, a brief description of the character is that he hangs around a princess and her three ladies in waiting, and he is being asked by the princess to go and see this king and get information from this king, and sort of get the intel from the king and his lads, essentially. And so he's the sort of the go-between between the princess and the girls and the boys. And when I read that in the script or in the play, I went, he's gay. Like, he can't not be, like, he hangs around all the girls, he gossips, he hides in bushes and like tries to sneak out information. And he's a really interesting character. And so I went into the audition and I was like, he's gay, I'm doing a camp. Like I'm sorry, I'm doing a camp. And the director was like, I never saw him doing that. And then, like, it was a table, there was the lead actress, the director, and a couple of other people that were like on this sort of panel, and I'm like, and the lead actress was like, you do realize this character is gay as tits. Like, this person is doing the right thing. Like, like book him. Like, he's amazing. And that sort of. So when anyone says, "Can you remember any Shakespeare?" I always go back to Love Labour's Lost because it's a comedy as well. So, and it's this character is again gay as tits, and it kind of paved the way for my career and my trajectory as it is now. So an excerpt of that character would be under the cool shade of the sycamore. I thought to close mine eyes for some half an hour when lo, to interrupt my purpose rest, to the shade I might behold address the king and his companions. Warily I stole into a neighbour thicket by and overheard what you shall overhear, that by and by disguised they will be here. The herald, a pretty knavish page, action and accent did they teach him. Thus must I speak, and thus thy body bear. For quoth the king, an angel shalt thou see, but fear not thou, but speak audaciously. There is more. I could go on, and I did
Honestly,
not.
go into any gay bar and say that to any gay man. I think you might have pulled. I'm throwing
No,
virtual roses. I'm
I
on
don't. I don't.
call.
I don't. I
Hey,
don't
here's a
think that
child
would
line for
happen.
you.
Yeah,
Because
it's
the
like, hey,
Shakespearean love.
hey, hey,
Oh,
generic guy with abs. Here I am in like terrible drag or homeless realness. I can I can recite a very niche referenced Shakespeare play monologue. Like, I would be. It would be interesting if I pulled with that. It would be
I mean,
very
I'd love to
interesting.
watch it just to see what happens. I mean, that could be a
It
drag
would be
show
a
in
train wreck.
itself. Men
Yeah.
react to Shakespeare. Oh, new podcast. No, stick to this podcast. So when you first started doing drag, did you see it as doing drag, or were you just a guy dressed as a girl as a character, or was it
Okay.
drag?
That. Yeah. So I think for me, um, performing is a journey. Life is a journey, and I say journey quite a lot. And
Are we
I've
going into
been
a song
on.
now? Life is a journey.
Yeah, don't stop believing. No, so like it's really funny. So I'm quite lucky. I'm quite blessed in that I get invited to go onto BBC Radio London quite a lot, and the presenter who invites me along always goes, "How's the journey, doll?" Because apparently that seems to be one of my phrases that I keep using and dropping into into conversation. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going on a journey." So my sort of my drag performance persona. So I've only recently, so okay, how I started was, like I said earlier, I started as a dude in a dress at a comedy gig. And then it was a dude in a dress and a wig. And then that was me for the last, I'm going to say 3 years. So, and that's held me quite well. I've done relatively well with that. But there have been a lot of doors that have not opened for me because people have seen, some people value and respect it, the sort of drag style that I've been doing, but they've seen it as unpolished or not taking it seriously. And that's fair enough. And I understand and respect that. And since lockdown, I mean, not even since lockdown, October of last year, I started sort of, October of 2019, I started dabbling in makeup, and it was still not perfect, still not great. And then since lockdown, I've been sort of, because I've had all this time, I've gone, okay, I need to step it up. I need to like level up my makeup abilities and like buy some products and buy some things, even if I don't have a lot of money at the moment, buy some of the core essentials, like, because I wasn't blocking my brows, so I wasn't covering my brows with like glue or anything like that. So it was my natural brows forever. And now I'm blocking my brows and I'm able to recognize a difference and recognize the canvas, my face as a canvas, to paint on and to go, okay, now I have all this space that I can like utilize. So, and I only started, so Liabelle, my drag, I
Which
don't
is a
want to say
great name,
persona,
by
but
the way.
well, so the reason I did, I, I'm quite problematic and I'm quite controversial online. I don't mean to be, because I think what I say it comes from a place of love. But on social media, I think things can be misconstrued, and I think people can get the wrong impression or like can read into things. And so sometimes I'll say things that aren't great. And I did some broadcaster training for the BBC maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they were talking about being slanderous and being liable. So if you like say something against someone, like, you know, you could become liable. And I was like, oh, that's 100% me. And then I was like, oh, I could be liable. And then it kind of evolved from that. And then I was like, well, I'm doing all these makeup looks, and I am sort of putting a lot more effort into my face, and now I'm starting to become more drag than I used to be. So I gave myself a name, and then people are starting to respond positively. So that's lovely.
Because how would you describe your drag aesthetic?
Drag shambles, 100%.
Okay.
Drag like
if I'm coming to a Liabelle show, what am I gonna see?
A shambles. Yeah, stick with that. A mess. So if you're coming to Liabelle, a show with Liabelle in it, it's going to be occasionally disgusting, occasionally ridiculous, occasionally hilarious. I think at its core, I will always, regardless of who's performing, myself, Wayne, as a sort of day self, or in like heightened drag as Liabelle. I think all of it is still going to be me, and I will incorporate stand-up comedy because that's a part of who I am. I will include probably burlesque or dancing in some fashion because that's who I am. I will maybe include a mashup of lip syncing at some point because that's something I'm relatively good at. But definitely, I think for me, a show that I am in is, I have always at my core wanted to entertain and share stories, and so the natural progression from being a drag shambles to being a radio presenter and podcaster as well is you're sharing stories just in a different medium, I guess. So I'm a drag shambles. I'm a messy hoe. And if you come to a show, you will be scared. You will be terrified. You'll be uncomfortable, but in a good way, I think.
Okay, it's throwing stuff out there.
So, well, I got my first ever review to a show. My first ever solo show was consistently hilarious and perpetually bizarre, and I think that sticks to this day. Is like, I'm consistently hilarious, accurate, consistently hilarious, and perpetually bizarre. Like, yeah, done. So it hasn't, and that was maybe 4 years ago now. God. So yeah, and it hasn't changed.
I've seen you in a few different drag pub gay venues before, but the two that strike out to me the most are the Halfway to Heaven. I think I just finished work and I just wanted a pint, and I normally just go to the halfway when I just want a drink. Went downstairs and all of a sudden there was a drag competition hosted by what was she called? Shay G'day. And I don't know what the contest was, but I was like, okay, I was going to stay for one, but now I'm going to stay for the entire thing, and that's why I think that's probably the first time I saw you, maybe.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Shay G'day is a Australian drag queen. Lives in the UK as well. She's phenomenal. I have a lot of time for her. If it's the one that I'm thinking it is, I dressed up as like a homeless person. Yeah. And I was like lip syncing to dance. Yeah. That was a choice I made. That was very much that was me. Yeah, that was me. I was like, because I was trying to learn how to, at that stage, I was trying to learn how to what's the word, to put my lipstick on, apply my lipstick in a sort of good way. And every time my patience was too thin, and it would slip. And so my left side of my lip would be like good, and then my right side would be a little bit ski whiff. And so I was like, great. I'm just going to smash my face and I'm just going to rub it down my cheek.
It totally
And
worked.
well, exactly. And so the routine that you saw was at Halfway, and I have a lot of love for Halfway to Heaven. I perform a lot there. Is that routine was about trying to, in a camp, upbeat way, to sort of to bring a light to homelessness within the UK, and to go like, you know, there are people who are begging on the streets for money or are genuinely homeless, but there is this expectation that even I know I could be guilty of this as well, is that when you look at a homeless person, you go, "Oh, you're not doing anything. You should do something." So like I think a lot of people are more willing to throw coin to a busking performer than they are to a homeless performer. I think there's this sort of like, "Oh, you're doing a show. Oh, you're balancing on a ball, or you're singing, or you're playing the guitar, or you're doing something. You've got a skill. Here's some coin," as opposed to a homeless person or someone on the street just sort of asking for money. There's that sort of expectation, and so that routine was in a very mild way trying to sort of bring to light that sort of campy with a high level of camp, but the undertone was like, we're homeless, like acknowledge us, but it's a weird one. So yeah, I did that. That was it, and it did not go down. It went down okay, but like
I enjoyed it. I know. The two there were two winners. There was
Camille
I had
Toe,
to
I
go
feel
for
like was there.
Camel
Baby
Toe
Rock?
won and Baby Rock, yeah.
Okay,
They
and
tied the
Rocks.
win that
Yeah.
one. I had to go for my
Yeah.
Instagram. It's like who? I was like going through. I was like, who won
Flick
that
through.
one?
Who are these people, and why do I know? Like,
Yeah, why do these ring a bell? But yeah, I really like Halfway to Heaven because I always find there are always queens there that I don't necessarily instantly think of to go see. It's like, oh yeah, that's another. I used to think I knew a lot of London queens, and then I realised, oh, actually, no, I don't. There are so many. What is it like within the London drag community? Is it quite close knitted? Is it always expanding? Like,
it's definitely always expanding, and it's. I guess for me, from my perspective, I'm quite lucky in terms of lucky and unlucky, I guess, in that there are different maybe factions. So the difference between and there's no shade to that when I say that. So like someone who performs at Halfway to Heaven might not be the right fit for, say, the Glory. So there's different venues that will cater to different styles of drag. Now, inherently, all the venues that I work at, so the Glory, Two Brewers, Halfway to Heaven, Bethnal Green Working Men's Club, they all want to be open and inclusive and share their stages with whoever wants to put on a show. But also, I think the clientele and the demographic of people that go to those venues is quite different. So I think performers or punters or anyone who goes to the Glory are very different to people who go to
the
Brewers.
Glory, they're a bit more alternative out there, aren't they?
Yeah. So, but then in saying that, there's a drag competition show called the Gold Rush, which I was a part of in season 1, and that's held at the Glory, and it's open and inclusive, and all kinds of drag performers enter that competition, hosted by Taylor Trash. Really great. But it's, I guess, because it's the venue, there is a mild expectation that you have to do it. You have to be a drag performer of this kind of niche. But then that gets thrown out the window instantly when you see the performers that perform in that competition, because the winner of season 2 was Monroe Adams. Now, Monroe Adams I wouldn't consider her alternative or edgy in that respect. I would consider she would fit very wonderfully in places like Halfway to Heaven and Two Brewers, I think that she would be someone who fit that mold, but she ends up winning a competition of the Glory, which is sort of the juxtaposition. So is it welcoming and inclusive? Was that your question? Yes, I guess it is. Yeah,
Like, if
I guess
I'm a new queen who's coming on the scene. Like, am I welcomed with open gay arms, or is it like, oh no, new competition
no,
on the scene?
no.
Cut
You
her.
need to prove yourself. You need
Okay,
to
that
prove
makes sense.
yourself.
Yeah.
I think there's a. It, so the answer is yes and no. So yes, you're welcomed if you can prove yourself and if you're taking what you're doing seriously. And like I said before about my drag evolution, is that like there were some people in my corner who were like, we respect and acknowledge. So again, Taylor Trash.
Great
I
name.
entered a
Love all these
competition.
names.
Yeah, Taylor's phenomenal. She's amazing. Um, I entered a competition at her upstairs before it sort of disbanded, and it was not another drag competition. And I did a show in this sort of glittery ball gown, but then it was just like a shambles of a wig, no makeup on, no shoes on. It was messy and disgusting. But she recorded it and she came up to me afterwards and she was like, I get exactly what you're talking about. Like I can see what your drag is trying to do. I started like this. You're great, keep going. So yeah, there are always going to be people who might not specifically get what you're doing, but there will be people out there that will get it and will understand. And as long as you're, I guess, unapologetically yourself and you know what you're trying to sell in terms of, like, if you're a cabaret performer, if you're a drag, it's too many facets to drag, because if you are focused on the makeup and you want to be really good at makeup, get an Instagram account, do it from your bedroom. You don't really need to go out and, maybe you could host shows, so you could be a door person, or you could be a look queen where you go to venues. So Bethnal Green Working Men's Club, there are shows that go on there, club nights that go on there, where you can be that look queen. So prime example of someone who could sort of fall into that aesthetic could be Lucky La or Mars, where they are a phenomenal look queen. They're actually great performers as well outside of that, but like they could be considered a look queen or a look performer because they do amazing looks. But if you're wanting to be a cabaret performer, a singer, a dancer, a comedian, whatever, you need to. My suggestion would be, if you're a fledgling drag performer, do competitions. You don't have to enter them to be competitive. You don't have to enter them to win. Any stage time is good stage time. And most of the stage time when you're starting out will be do a competition. Like, unfortunately, that's sort of the way to go. And competitions like Drag Idol essentially was my in to the queer scene in terms of drag performing. So I started, like I said, as a stand-up comedian, as a dude in a dress on the stand-up circuit, and then I did Drag Idol, and then I met a half dozen drag queens, and then they introduced me to other drag queens and drag performers, and it all sort of snowballed from there. So I think the answer is, if you have something to bring to the table in terms of performing, and if you're it's like friendships as well. Like you become friends with people. So like I have a lot of time for people like the Vixens, Tia Coffee, Pixie. What was her name now? Pixie Polite. Sorry, she's recently changed her name. So Tia Coffee, Pixie Polite, and Wo Adams. I have a lot of time for those humans. They're phenomenal. And when I started drag, and when I started performing, and still even to this day, I look up to them and I see them and I just go like, they're doing things that I hope that someday I'm able to do. And they continue to inspire me, and they I'm grateful to, I'm blessed to call them my friends. So there are people out there. You need to, like, being a queer person just outside of performing, you find your tribe. You find those people that you're interested in that will help you to become the best version of yourself.
I suppose a lot of the time, and this could be wrong, but as an audience member, you're watching a drag show and you see someone wearing the hair, the makeup, the costume, and you just think, well, that's their superpower. Like, they automatically should be able to sing, dance, and perform. But if you don't have the core foundation of the skills, like if you're not funny, if you can't sing,
yeah, they also
you
like
can't just stand there on stage like doing nothing, can you?
Well, I mean, there are drag competition shows that are on television that are a prime example of that, where you watch drag performers that enter that competition show, and you go, "Oh, they look phenomenal. Oh, but they can't perform," and there's no shade in that. There's no judgment in that. You go like, "Okay, that's not what they bring. They bring something else. What do they bring? They bring this, and that is fine. All drag is valid, and you need to, I guess, figure out what it is you want to bring to the table. And if that means being a makeup artist, camp. If that means being a burlesque performer, camp. I have seen multiple drag performers doing amazing things, and my thing, especially, so like if I'm judging at a competition, which I've done, is to give me something that I've never seen before. Don't be the same as everyone else. Don't make me go, oh, you look like this. Like, you remind me of this person. And like, I don't want to be reminded of this person. I want to see you. Does that make sense?
It totally. I
yeah. So like, if that means, so if you're saying I want to look like this, then like, so if you're saying, oh, I like, let's say, famous drag performer Detox, state drag race Detox. I want to look like Detox. I think she's camp. Or I love Trixie Mattel. I think her makeup is amazing. I'm going to copy that. If that's your thing, go for it. But also, why are you trying to copy someone else? People like Trixie Mattel and Detox were unapologetically themselves and did things that were against the grain, and now they are part of the mainstream. But I guess drag is inherently sort of a two fingers up to mainstream society, and it's like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and you're going to like it or not like it, but it's for me. And I think performing in general is do what you love doing, and if you don't love what you're doing, then why are you doing it?
I've done drag 3 times. So I'm a member
Wonderful.
of the London Gay Men's Chorus, and normally every year we have a pub crawl where we all have a category.
I know Sam.
Oh yeah, we're best friends.
He's lovely. I know Sam.
Yeah,
I keep messaging Sam. So shout out to Sam. The ginger nut biscuit. Yeah, so you've done drag for London Gay Men's Chorus.
Yeah, so we have a pub crawl, and it's literally we're given a category, and everyone has to dress up to that category, and then we go to Soho, and then we stand in Soho Square for 5 minutes, take pictures, and then go to the welly and drink. And the first time I did it, I literally had no idea what I was doing. Category was Olivia Newton-John, Let's Get Physical.
Right.
I thought I looked great, but looking back, no.
Yeah, I think drag is progression, and I think it will just yourself as an individual is progression. So like, I don't know if I could imagine seeing myself, like, looking back at older pictures of myself as a performer. I'm like, oh, why am I not wearing a wig? Why am I not wearing makeup? Like, oh, that looks weird. So yeah, you grow, and I think it's all about growth and trying new things and experimenting. So,
but looking at my second or third attempt, I could definitely see what was better and what was worse. But I also, as much as I felt empowered wearing drag, I was like, total respect to people who do this all the time, because this is not something I can do all the time, because it's exhausting and it's painful and it's expensive.
It is very, very expensive, and I wish I wish my skill sets were in a profession that were a little bit more financially lucrative. But unfortunately, I have, and so people are like, oh, well, like if you're not like if you're not happy or you're not doing well, why are you doing it? So like for me, like I said earlier, I host a radio show, Driving You Homo, and um, there's a Patreon that people can subscribe to for that. And people are like, oh, why? Like I've had people in my social circle, my friend circle, that go like, "Oh, why are you asking people for money? Like, it's like if you can't make it as as this, you shouldn't be begging for money. Like, you need to find something else to do." And I said, "Well, it's the arts industry," and these are coming from people who aren't artists, aren't performers, don't understand how important things like queer representation is in mainstream media. But they go, well, if it's not working, why are you doing it? And it's like, well, I'm doing it because it's important. I'm doing drag because it's important. I love doing it. I have a lot of fun doing it. But also, I think visibility is drastically important in mainstream culture, and I think we need to keep, showing the world that people within the LGBTQI plus spectrum might be a little bit different to you, but it doesn't mean that they're weird or crazy. I mean, I am weird and crazy, but there are people out there that aren't, and we should accept them. I think there's that inherent fear of otherness, and we need to get over that, and quickly. I can't remember what your question was.
I think we were just talking about drag. So another time I saw you was at the Two Brewers when Rich Watkins did a Disney Snatch game, and you dressed up as Princess Peach.
Princess Peach, because when I think of Disney, I think of Princess Peach, the Super Mario Brothers character from Nintendo. Yeah, so that was
night.
Yeah, it was camp night actually. It was a good night. I enjoyed that night. I had fun. I got a lot of flack initially. Like when I first got there, they're like, "You're dressing up as Peach. She's not from Disney." And I was like,
"Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna do like I I get it. Like I know where I'm going with this. Like I'm not stupid. Like I am stupid, but also I'm not like come on now. Like this is not my first rodeo.
How has it been while lockdown's been going on? Have you been able to do many? Are you doing? I've seen Queens do online Facebook shows and Zoom shows, and have you been partaking?
Nope. Yes, nope. Yeah, yes and no. So I tried to do some shows at the start of lockdown, and they weren't working, and nothing was. My computer was and is terrible. My laptop is not great, and it wasn't working, and I couldn't figure out why. And I tried doing things, working around it, and I tried like video editing, and I tried all these things, and it just sort of wasn't working the way I wanted it to work. And so I was getting frustrated. And then I realized I was talking to a friend of mine who's a computer nerd, and I was like, "Oh, like my computer won't work. Help me!" And she's like, "Oh no, your computer is terrible. Like I don't even know how you're surviving." And so she's like, "Buy this laptop. It's camp. It's great. You'll love it." And so I bought my new laptop, and now I can actually do things. So if you had invited me to do this podcast 2 weeks ago, I would have probably had to have said no, because my computer, or I would have had to have figured out a way to do it differently, because the way I've been doing things online it hasn't been working the way I wanted it to work. It hasn't been as polished. So the answer is, have I been doing stuff? Bits and pieces, yes. I did. I was a part of Tia Coffee and Something Wong hosted a drag competition show for Two Brewers called Lockdown Legends, which I was a part of. And I may have been eliminated in week 1, but that's only because, again, my computer I had multiple computer problems, and so like one of their critiques that I had was that the lip sync wasn't as connected. And so
Sure.
my lip sync is tight. Like I'm pretty good when it comes to lip syncing, but when it comes to like video editing, not so great. And so I spent literally hours trying to like connect the words to my mouth and like, trying to connect it all together, and it just wasn't working. And I didn't understand why. And then I got eliminated, and life carries on, and blah blah blah. But now I've got the new laptop. I literally essentially went back to look at that video and tried to like edit on my new laptop, and it took me 5 minutes. And I was
Yeah.
like, why, how, what kind of a homophobe? Like, I was so angry. I was livid. And then like I messaged Tia, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it's just like, yeah, like, like laptops, great. So yeah, it's so I've been kicking on. I've been kicking on.
With new laptop at hand and technology hopefully working,
Yeah.
do you have any plans for anything to come?
So Driving You Homo is on every week. So last week or this week we had Victoria Scone, who's phenomenal. That's up on YouTube. The week before that we had Dave Cross. So I am interviewing. I'm getting back into Driving You Homo. So that's on YouTube, podcast, and community radio.
I mean, we are essentially in this new era now of media where we're all having to learn new skills and how to do podcasts and how to do YouTube videos and how to even make a TikTok video for entertainment's sake.
Well, exactly. So I think like drag, like learning how to do makeup, learning how to do hair, learning how to do performing, learning how to sing, learning how to do comedy, like everything takes time. And a lot of live performers are having to learn how to do video editing or
Mm.
live streaming. And it's not the easiest thing to do. And some things work well and some things don't. So for me personally, I've got a lot of mates that are doing this at the moment, is they're doing live singing on like live streams, Facebook live streams, or Instagram live streams. And for me, I don't know if that works. I don't
Mm.
like that so much because the audio doesn't sound as good. So like, take for example Poppycock. Poppycock is a great friend of mine. I love her to death. I think she's a phenomenal artist, great drag queen, great singer, phenomenal singer. But I get sort of not bored, but I just like I would I think there's something lost in the live stream on Facebook versus being and seeing her in person. So
Sure.
like seeing her in person is so electrifying. Um, that's not to say that her Facebook live streams aren't. It just for me, there's something lost for me personally, and
No, of
it
course.
just I don't know. It's so frustrating. I think it's because I know these people as well, and I'm just like I just want to hang out with you. I just want to see
Yeah.
you. Yeah. So the answer is, am I doing things in the future? Yes. Um, I'm doing lots of makeup. I'm practicing my makeup looks. I am organizing things on the Driving You Homo YouTube channel. So please subscribe.
So, Wayne, when lockdown is properly all over and done with, what are the first things you're going to do?
So my plan is twofold. Is to support my drag mates. If I can perform on stage, I will. But is to just be around my drag friends or be around my friends in general. Hang out with the people that I spend my life with. I want to like get out there and um, I want to go to places again like Halfway to Heaven, Two Brewers of the Glory, and just see people. I have, as of today, there's a phenomenal person whose name is um, Vicky JS, I think, on social media. She made me a face mask. So this
Ah!
is my face mask. So I got that delivered today. So I'm gonna.
For those of you who can't see this podcast because podcasts are not a visual medium, the mask is a beautiful, stunning leopard print.
Leopard print, and it's on my social media. You can go to @Liabelle or the only Liabelle or one Wayne Carter, and you can see my boy self and my drag self wearing the mask. So like one's wearing the mask and one's me in drag. So I will be wearing that when I go on my little adventure in whenever I'm able to go out of the flat next. So that'll be camp. So that's number one, definitely doing that. Number two, having the sexy fun times with gentlemen callers who are interested in my flesh. So to answer your question, what will I do when lockdown is over? One, hang out with my friends. Two, get the sex. If I can.
Well, Wayne, we've come to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for being so open and talking and to me and sharing your wonderful self.
My slightly problematic but beautiful soul.
Those are your words. So lastly, is there anything, I know you've mentioned a few of your channels, but do you want to give a last plug where we can find you?
Yep. Okay. So again, you can follow me on social media at One Wayne Carter. You can also follow myself at the only Liar Bell for my drag. You can also follow my radio show podcast YouTube extravaganza, which is called Driving You Homo. You can follow that at Driving You Homo. So I'm either at Driving You Homo, at One Wayne Carter, or at the only Liar Bell, and they're all on social media. You can find them on all the platforms, and I do things. I do gay stuff. Yay!
Yay, gay stuff. Well, thank you again, and hopefully we'll see you live performing, doing what you do best very soon.
Yay!
Yay! And Wayne, bye.
Oh, bye. Oh, no, bye.